Thanks for listening to Curious Cat, the podcast that examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. I'm your host, Jennifer Holtz. Join me every week as I explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit. Welcome to Curious Cat. The other night, a white cow followed me around in my dream. It was a milking cow that was snowy white, and it nipped at my right wrist a couple of times, which led me to kind of run away in the dream. But when I woke up and journaled the dream in its entirety, I was texting with both of my daughters because both had been in the dream. You know, they're used to weird, trippy texts from their mother, and I had a desire to pass along any messages that might be intended for them in their day. My eldest said that the cow might have been a message for me. And that's how I got to this place where I am teaching myself to be comfortable with a brand new phrase, unconditional abundance. Let's get into it. Oh, wait a second. First, one final note. It's a trigger warning of sorts. Abundance is not money alone, but it touches the subject of money and income, which is by its very nature tethered to survival. It is emotionally charged. As I unravel the subject and you find you're feeling anxiety, gripping your guts or constricting your airflow, then put me on pause and tap back into your breath. I'll be here on the other side of the break, I promise. All right, now let's get into it. I hope you are well. I hope you're having a really great week, noting the happy moments in it, sweeping the blah bits away like a member of the Olympic curling team. This week's episode was spurred by a dream. There was a riddle in there that I'd have missed if it hadn't been for a conversation with my eldest, who was at the time just hours away from launching their handmade, ethically sourced jewelry business. And yes, I'm a proud mama, so I've linked to Nora's business in the show notes. And it reminds me that when we endeavor to dig into our old ways of being, ones taught to us before we were aware of such things as money, unconditional love, abundance, fill in the blank, we need to picture an empty garbage bag at our feet right now. It's open and ready to receive all those old ways that hold us back, that don't serve us, and we don't need anymore. I hope this week's conversation helps you and me to fill that garbage bag with old programs, stale ways, toxic, mean girl utterances. And by the time I close the show and tell you from my heart chakra that I love you, can you tie up the top of that full garbage bag and offer it up to Mother Earth or the great central sun, whichever feels right? So back to my kids. Both of my grown children have otherworldly gifts, from insane artistic talents to deep empathy to unfazed common sense and incredible intuitive gifts. I'm grateful Nora shared their gift, the insight into my dream, with me, and it's led me here to you, to a conversation about unconditional abundance. Abundance as an ever-flowing stream of diamond waters, standing by waiting for us to notice, then fill our canteens when they run low. Before I share the dream in full and go into the message the cow brought forth by biting me, I wonder if you thought it was a long typo when you read unconditional abundance in the episode title. Assuming love was supposed to be the next word, and it keeps almost rippling off my tongue to be unconditional love. We've all heard of unconditional love, and I know many people are myself included, striving to embody this type of love. And there seems to be a human struggle to receive it in turn. But what about unconditional abundance? Does that sound as strange as it feels coming off of my tongue? Just food for thought as we dive headfirst into no man's land. So the dream. I recorded my dream under the title, Crossing Over Business Cards and a Biting Cow. From that entry, in the dream, Nora, their hair a deep purple that appeared raven black, asked me to go with them. We began to walk through a city. It brought to mind old Chicago downtown. They had an umbrella and I didn't. It was sprinkling a bit, and soon I understood that we were crossing over souls to the beyond. I say this because a group of people, all men, were following close behind us as we walked through downtown. There was a father and a son among that group. The son hadn't crossed over yet, but was accompanying his father. Nora and I had no idea who they were, and the others in the group were absolutely shocked because the two men were world famous. The father, who had very light hair, possibly white, handed me his business card. Someone else then handed me their business card too during the walk to the beyond, and I said, "We don't do this for personal gain." I didn't know what to do with the cards because I wasn't carrying a purse. I remembered I wore jeans and slipped the cards into my back pocket. We continued through the city streets, and a milking cow with white fur started following along with us. She bit me, and so the entire group picked up the pace and laughed as we tried to outrun the cow. Soon, we delivered our group to what appeared to be an urban above-ground train station. Then Nora and I left to pick up Bryn from school. She was in kindergarten in the dream and was glad to share that if we needed to align our chakras, she learned at school that we could just sit within a circle of stones and it would happen. Boom. If we didn't have a stone circle handy or a fire pit or something like that, we could place small stones around ourselves. A handful would do and sit within, though that took a few minutes to cleanse, clear, and align the chakras compared to the bigger stones. But it was easy. This blew my mind, the simplicity, and struck me as true. I remember wondering in the dream how I let myself forget this. So, let's fast forward to the text conversation that I had with Nora afterward. Nora said the cow was a message for me, that maybe I needed to acknowledge that I offer abundance to others without thinking about it, which was really sweet. Nora also said the biting of the cow brought to mind the deer we'd encountered in Nara. The deer there are thought to be spirits, and a bite is a sort of gift or acknowledgement, which was really sweet, and it actually really resonated. I did a quick Google search about the meaning of a white cow, and this is what I found. A cow does not hold back on providing for its offspring and humanity, making it a symbol of unending prosperity and generosity. In the spiritual realm, the cow encourages us to recognize and appreciate the abundance that surrounds us. I asked in the text thread next, maybe I'm forgetting to accept the abundance the universe is providing, and that's why the cow had to bite me. That's when Nora said that the cow is trying to tell me something definitely, and in the same moment, I had a kind of knowing. What if we all embraced unconditional abundance? Not something we earned, but it just is. Get comfortable with unconditional abundance. I wrote it down as fast as I could. That thought or download or insight made me aware of an ugly fact. I've always thought of abundance as conditional. Maybe I need to meditate on this in a stone circle. And then out of my pen came a quick meditation about unconditional abundance. It shocked me. I went upstairs because the house was quiet at this early hour, and I recorded the meditation, and I've linked to it in the show notes. If you'd like to give it a go, but only when you're in a safe location, please, and not driving or steering or walking or biking. Please just be safe and give it a try. After I returned to my notebook and my phone downstairs, I saw that Nora sent me this from somewhere, which popped up right after our conversation. So it felt like a continuation of our conversation. Quote, "Let July be July, and let August be August, and let yourself just be, even in the uncertainty. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to solve everything. And you can still find peace and grow in the wild of changing things." End quote. And the quote is attributed to a MHN. One final thought from Nora. Meditate on feeling inherently abundant in the moment. This moment of peace, spaciousness, safety, sunlight, clean air, health, etc. Wow, what a morning, right? What a gift. What was a multitude of gifts. What a fresh point of view. And so here we are. Before I share more information that I found about unconditional abundance, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the abundance right now. I am healthy. My legs, my arms, mind, and eyes work great. I have a roof over my head. I have food in the pantry. My family, my friends, and loved ones are safe and happy and well, all at the same time. That is no small feat. My pets are as well. I live in a country where I have a constitutional right to speak, write, express my viewpoints. I did not sign a contract for a television show that would have limited my freedom to create whatever my angels and guides steer me towards next. I do not have those ties and tethers on me and my show and my writing. The sun is out. The sky is mostly clear. The air is clean. I have the tools to create my abundance, and they are all in good working order. I have nice neighbors. I know love. I am able to express love to other people and animals and plants, including you. You're not a plant, but a person. Again, this is no small feat. I am grateful for this abundance and all other riches that I have not listed. What about you? You are probably already providing a steady stream of abundance for others. That blooming lilac out your door, it gives sustenance to bees and butterflies, providing passing hummingbirds with a quick sip of morning dew, a safe place for a bunny to hide. The grass and dandelions you haven't pulled or sprayed with chemicals, those are sustenance for rabbits and worms. You answered a text from a friend that needed to be heard, seen. They needed some empathy, maybe a shot of sympathy, maybe a loving word to just carry on this week. You were there for them. Unconditional abundance, like unconditional love, is the natural state of being. The mama cow expects nothing in return for providing milk to her calf. Let's start deprogramming our toxic relationship with abundance. Okay, I've got another confession. I feel like this has become a confessional, but here we are. When I first wrote down that phrase, unconditional abundance, I was confused. Isn't abundance something to be earned? And below that musty old conditioning was this next grungy bit. Isn't abundance given to those that do good in the world? I hadn't realized that mucky muck was in my brain until then. It wasn't programming I was aware was part of my existence, but there it was, barfed up. All this is proof I have work to do to wrap my heart around unconditional abundance. It's inherently natural, and I've been programmed since childhood to be uncomfortable with the concept. So that's the bare bones truth and a really good place to start. So you're going to hear me repeat this throughout the episode, but here it is again. Abundance is the natural state of being. It's sounding a little bit less clunky to my brain. It's not something we earn, We have warped this with inner governors that were conditioned, starting at birth, or maybe it was that first year of life. We have contorted to fashion an unnatural relationship with abundance. Do you think I'm exaggerating? Well, what if the person behind you at Starbucks stepped in to pay for your coffee and your scone? How would that make you feel? Do you fight them and reject their generosity? Do you feel you need to pay it forward? Why can't it just be? This simple moment is proof that we've been rewired to be suspicious, judgmental, and wary of natural abundance. What? Did you think we would learn to embrace unconditional abundance and gold coins would rain down into our open hands? Abundance comes in the form of other people. It's not just money. It's a flow in the universe that is constantly there for us to float on. When we say, I want to start my own business, what's the next thought? Is it, how will I ever bring in as much as my full-time job now? How will I ever make enough to get medical benefits for my family? I haven't saved enough yet to give this a go. The list goes on and on and on. Those are all very real concerns, but they tend to smother out your original inspired moment. I want to start my own business. That was the original thought. Let's not smother it out. How many businesses were never started? Businesses we need and would love right now that would change the face of the economy for the better. How many hit the shredder because they were killed by fear, by lack programming, by imagined scarcity, by governmental red tape and IRS worries that kept that baby dream from becoming real? It is a damn shame. There is so much unnatural programming about abundance. Remember that empty garbage bag I had us all pull out at the top of the episode? Well, now is a good time to make sure it's handy, it's nearby. We're going to talk about the groups, institutions, and people that sometimes mostly unaware, shaped our skewed perspectives on money and abundance in general. As memories come up for you, set them in your garbage bag. You can even write them down so you can look at them straight on after this episode. So the first, thank you, parents. I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and it was the norm for parents to bring kids into the fiscal world in a fear-based way. Jessa Reed mentions a few on her podcast, which I've linked to in the show notes, and they are spot on. Eat all the food on your plate because children are starving in fill in your blank with another region. Shut the front door. We're heating the whole block. It went on and on. We were led to believe that the simplest slip in our vigilance and our family would be destitute. Abundance was 100% conditional. Pocket change was earned by doing weekly chores. Sports uniforms were earned by working at car washes, and where we tried to ignore the men that all too often delighted in our wet shirts. Just terrible. In my family, my brother could earn extra coins by bringing our dad beers or walking the dog, and other things like that, leading to his nickname, Garthbury, the butler. We earned nickels for trying Brussels sprouts. My mom offered me money to lose weight, which forever shaped my body image. I'm not saying kids shouldn't help out with family duties. It's great for kids. It teaches life skills. It helps them feel confident as though they are an equal part of the family. But it wasn't long before I realized those Saturday chores I'd been paid for, when my parent had to pay a pro for that cleaning, it cost them a ton more than $10. I mean, a lot more. And the austere fiscal measures, they taught us that money was something that ran out, was hard to come by, and something ultimately to fear. Okay, another thank you in a sarcastic way. Thank you, Western culture. Western society has dished up messed up ideas of abundance for centuries. And it's laid bare in this one statement. capitalism is awful or capitalism sucks. Fill in your blank. When I grew up, it was this more idealistic outlook that was every single person in our country of the United States had the same opportunity to achieve. I hadn't really thought about the fact that some maybe had a better start than others, but we had a clear path that we could take. We could be the best student in our school, and that may unlock the best university, and that may unlock the best fill in the blank. And it felt positive, but somehow capitalism is a dirty word now. So Western society is messing us up. There's another place we have to do a sarcastic thank you, which is thanks, organized religion. Here's more toxicity in regards to abundance. Organized religion has messed up our natural flow with abundance. Oh my God, the whole tithe 10%, but also if you give to any charity, you shouldn't track it. I think the Bible verse is something about let the left hand give so the right hand doesn't know what you're doing. Basically, and I'm badly wrecking this saying, but you spoil the pure act of giving by acknowledging in any way, shape, or form that you gave. Why ruin every kind urge to do something generous? What a bunch of horse crap. It's nonsense to think that a generous act is undone by having a conscious thought afterwards. Like, hey, I did that good thing. Baloney. It's baloney. I will not allow kindness gatekeepers. And also that 10% tithe. So many people I know gave the 10% and they could not afford. They were living in debt. And that is terrible. It's just sad and it's awful. I think that there's something to be said for having balance. And when your cup is full, then you can extend to your church community because your cup is full and you want to share with them. But if your cup is empty, then you need to feel okay, not terrible as a person for hanging on to the coins that you have. Okay, another sarcastic thanks. Thanks, artificial lights and laptops and internet and smartphones. We are removed from the natural flow of life, and like a kinked hose leading to a sprinkler, that is messing up our abundance. First, artificial light. The light of the sun used to mandate work hours. In the spring and summer, we worked longer hours, and gradually as fall turned to winter, we slowed down that frenetic pace, matching the energy of the sun. In the spring, we sowed seeds. In the summer, we reaped what we'd sown, preserving that abundance in jars and freezers to sustain us through the winter months. Artificial life has meant the body is disconnected to that natural heartbeat of the earth. So instead, working and then entertaining ourselves into oblivion. I'm wondering if we can push back just a bit. I know it's unrealistic to just shut it down when the natural light is gone. I understand that's not normal. We can't go back that far. But you know how when you're camping, the fresh air and activity means sound sleeping soon after the sun sets. We're more in the rhythm of nature just with that one night out. Our jobs and lives, I know they won't allow us to adopt completely those old ways, but maybe we can note the sunrise, maybe stand at a window and observe it, or better yet, go outside and observe the sun as it rises in your bare feet. And what nightcap could be better than glimpsing the changes in the sky as the sun sets? Those bookends alone are great ways to set your brain and body to nature's clock. All right, next, hand in hand with nature's rhythms and how we've wrecked those connections. Laptops, smartphones, the internet. As a parent to grown kids that went from having a regular school day with an hour of homework or less, no laptop in sights, and they even had legit snow days on the few times the roads were too awful for the school community to risk taking. And then in the years that followed, laptops were introduced to their schools, and there was a devolution of downtime. Every day was a chance to work, every hour. No snow days because you had your laptop with you. And on top of that, every teacher would send out an email that said, you have nothing to do, so here's a giant assignment, forgetting there were 7 classes. It was terrible. My eldest had a school that preached work hard, play hard as their motto. It sounded good, but it was pure BS because even on breaks, the teachers would assign entire books to be read before the start of the next trimester. There were even term papers assigned that were due before the first day of the first term. So much for work hard, play hard. I hope that's what the teachers did, but the students were suffering from burnout, stress, exhaustion, depression, and anxiety that they're still dealing with today. So many students. We have in our hands, on the treadmill ledge, or in our pockets, a device that screams for our attention most of the day. This useful tool has become a yoke around our necks. Every one of you has thought about this and heard, read, tried different ways to have blocks of time where you intentionally disconnect. Those are noble pursuits. Every minute away from that smart device, I swear, reverses aging. I wish there were studies that confirm this because then tech purges would be more accepted. All I can offer is to try. When you know your family is safe, tucked in, and healthy, turn your ringer off and turn your phone face down just for a bit. One final note about the unnatural state of abundance today. Well, money is fake. We know. It's printed paper. It was at one time a convenience that allowed us to not cart around a bunch of eggs and vats of milk to trade with the guy down the road for vegetables and medicine. But we haven't used the gold standard, a real gold given for banknotes, in a long damn time. I remember during my college years when I worked 2 jobs totaling 40 hours a week. One was paid and one was a volunteer position. I had 0 money in my pocket or in my bank account for food. I tried to stretch out dollars as I lived paycheck to paycheck, scrimping what I could for tuition along the way. I would spend $1 for a dish of rice at a teriyaki place. I would breathe in the smell of the meat that was grilling and pretend that's what I was chewing on with each forkful. During those lean years, I remember looking at an ATM machine, like really seeing it for the first time as the strange thing that it is. Put in plastic, press the right numbers, and if that plastic and numbered account linked to a computer number, a piece of paper would come out, one you could trade for a bag of food. It was strange to be hungry and pass these machines knowing they were filled with crisp bills that could fill my belly and alleviate my anxiety. While my big brother was at Cornell in Ithaca, New York, I learned about Cornell dollars. They were dollars that incentivized spending your money locally, and the goods or services ended up being cheaper if you use those Cornell dollars to pay and more expensive if you use US dollars. I tried to find an article about those to link to the show notes, and it's been obliterated from the internet. I sure couldn't find it. But we've all heard of Bitcoin, crypto, and other e-currency, right? I'm not qualified to speak in depth about them, but as a curious observer, it seems like the idea is to cut out the middleman, the banks, the feds, and go straight from you to me, one person to another. And it's interesting, the value of this e-currency, it's not only held up, but increased in value, where the US dollar is losing value, which is why we have seen a few years of rising inflation. But all of that is not what I'm speaking of when I tell you about the message the white cow bit me a lot to convey. It's about opening up your hand and watching it fill with what you need, not by wishing hard enough or being good enough or clever enough or born under the right constellation, but just because you and the universe understand this is the natural way. Does it still sound bananas to your ears? Maybe if we dive into the shadow of abundance, it will help us both. Abundance's shadow is lack or scarcity. That's right. Did you know that? The shadow of abundance is lack. The best source I found for information to confront our lack and scarcity programming and conditioning is comedian Jessa Reed. I've linked to 2 episodes of her podcast in the show notes, just in case my summary leaves you craving a deeper take. Also, we might be doing more garbage filling, so have your garbage bag handy. I find Jessa Reed refreshing because she doesn't take herself seriously, and she asks us to come at this subject and any work in this area with the mindset of playful curiosity. She asks that we approach the subject of manifesting abundance with patience and the kind of hopeful joy we feel when we first fall in love. Those vibrations, those energies are the same needed for this work. In the first episode called Lack Programming, she reminds us at the top that the natural state of the universe is abundance. It is like air, a given, and the norm in all other parts of the universe, but we chose to be here on Earth. It's the trauma grad school, and an easy way to experience trauma is through lack, not having enough of something necessary for life. She reiterates that lack doesn't exist in the rest of the universe or other dimensions or timelines. She also speaks frank and says that before we talk about how to manifest abundance, first we have to slow down and address our lack programming, which is stronger depending on our childhoods. She then explains that greed is lack on steroids. If people that sleep on mattresses of their money had actually mastered abundance, they wouldn't be holding on to all of their money, hoarding resources. They would know that if they gave or spent, the resources would be replaced as needed. That is the opposite of the energy of greed. Jessa reminds us that abundance is not money. It is a flowing river. Tara Pig called it a garden to be tended. Don't you love that? There are some powerful truths that may be harder to hear. Here's one of them. We've been brainwashed into manifesting more lack most of our lives. She said to picture the universe as a server in a restaurant. The universe steps up to our table to take our order. What would you like? I have everything to offer. Together we can bring anything into reality. What will it be? And our response? I hate my job. It sucks. I really, really hate my job. And the server says, yes, I understand, but what would you like to order? Our response? No, my boss, you don't understand. He's a real jerk. I'm not paid enough. I work hours and hours and someone else next to me is paid twice as much as I do and they do half the work. And the server at this point slips the notepad into their pocket and just sits down. So you get the idea. When we want something, we need to let it capture our imagination. We need to let it take up space in our waking and daydreaming hours. Again, she gives another example. Don't say you want to move. Be specific. I want to move to LA. Then take action in that direction. Google apartments in LA, neighborhoods, parks, search for jobs in LA, watch LA-based shows on Netflix, draw art that's inspired by LA. Let the universe's algorithms see the trend. You and LA, peas and carrots. Want to start your own business? You'll see the lack brainwashing show up first. It will say things like, how are you going to make this work in this economy? Why do you think what you want to do is so different from that guy? He's a success already. How will you earn enough to pay for the retirement? The governors will just come screaming forward. There may even be parts of you that tell you that you don't deserve abundance. You aren't whatever enough to have your own business or be an independent success. It's sad that we let our subconscious speak to us in ways we would never tolerate from a stranger or even a friend. But let those underbelly comments be. Write them down and again, dream, research, Plan and dream more so that you are at least an equal counterbalance to that toxic self-talk. Then tip the scales towards majority with adding one more positive thought. That just one more thing that tips the balance towards your abundance. Jessa Reed said that some things commonly come up when we're dealing with lack programming, that money and success are for other people, that money is for everybody else but you. There's a belief that money or abundance are in some way evil or bad. When those thoughts come into your head, you have a couple options. You can say to yourself, wow, that is my lack programming. And you look at it head on and just acknowledge it. Or two, you can give up and you can say, none of this works for me. This is for other people, not me. I'm not allowed to be abundant. Abundance will not make you happy. It can alleviate nagging problems, your little 3D problems, Jessa says, but you're ultimately in charge of your happiness. Commit to working on this lack issue and be patient with it. She was saying, think about it in terms of multiple years. She says not to expect much, but as soon as you shift gears to acknowledge it and to shift into abundance mode, the universe can't help but delight in this and will just do something, will lay something in your path that's abundance. It's difficult to manifest, she says, abundance when you're perpetually judging those with abundance or methods of abundance, like capitalism sucks, which I was talking about earlier. She was saying you need to look at that and then heal around it, because believing you are morally superior because you are broke, which is a trend in cults and in many spiritual communities, that usually links to your shadow. You're lying to yourself, she said, and you need to look at that full on and go, what am I afraid of? Me with abundance. What doesn't fit with that picture and how can I make that feel better? In her second episode that I linked to called Eat Your Vision Board, she is still talking about abundance and lack. And she was saying that playful curiosity is the key. She says, make mistakes, you'll learn from them, which accelerates your moments of success. She said, you've been creating a reality you don't like for years. It will take curiosity and experiments and some time to counterbalance that. And I have to add, making the process conscious speeds up progress. Then she went on, set tiny intentions or journal out your life and connect dots to now. You've been creating unconsciously up until recently. Own that and move forward consciously. So what do you want? The universe says you don't order anything. You say, like, I don't like shrimp cocktail, but then you don't ask for something else on the menu. And it's making the universal server frustrated. I just love that. So going back to the job thing, if you say, I don't like my job, and imagine the server says, well, come on, order something. You can go ahead and picture what you want, even if it's less vague, like a job that brings me a sense of purpose and joy. Just a few parameters will help the server of the universe be happy again and help dish up what you would like more of. Accepting what you're most afraid of is the number one most powerful thing you can do. Look at the thing you're afraid of and accept it. Sit still. Face the thing head on, accept it, and move on. Then thank it for the experience it offers, and then play those tapes forward. She also mentions that becoming comfortable with death is one of the big ones. But look for addictions to losing. She gave an example. Nothing works out for me. No one sticks around. My parents love my sibling more than me. Well, those are signs that we are addicted to losing. Work on what part of your ego wants to identify with those statements and start giving it love and healing it. Set an intention. I'm starting a game where I start my own business, is a way she said to phrase it. And it's crappy to think you ruin the outcome by thinking and hoping towards it. Think of it, yes. Think of it done. How does it feel? Where are your efforts going? What's a day in the life look like? Start picturing it. Again, using your imagination, your daydreaming, and the internet to help the algorithms of the universe align you with a successful business. She also asks us to tap into the feminine energy. And again, she's not talking about gender, but the energy of receiving blessings, gifts, and a lucky break even. It's when I was asking you about how it felt when a stranger paid for your scone at Starbucks. We need to get used to accepting abundance because the universe doesn't want to make us uncomfortable. So we got to get comfortable with it. She reminds us again, daydreaming is your friend. What does it feel like to receive, to be there as a success, to not have to worry about your bills anymore, that they're paid for? She also said research is your friend. Look up how to do that dream job or that place you want to move. Let the thing that you want take up a lot of space in your consciousness and let contentment be beautiful. Before we close and we tie off those garbage bags full of old programming, old ways of thinking about abundance, I have to continue to look at myself with abundance. And I've got to be brutally honest. I have lots of emotional overlays. Lots. Beyond good, bad, dumb, smart, lucky, wasted, greedy, too generous, sucker, all of it. It's hard to admit, but there it is. And this confession has brought up something deeper. Jessa Reed said it. I said it at the top. Abundance is not money. Abundance equaling only money is a hyper narrow point of view. So for my own healing journey with abundance, a great first step is to widen that viewpoint to include the once visible abundancers. Yes, I'm desperate and I'm making up words. Abundancers. Here are some invisibles. And with each, I am going to acknowledge, shine a light on my view of abundance and let it widen. A fish on the line, a lungful of fresh air, a full moon, a breeze on a warm day, clean water to drink, a piece of fruit, a text from a friend, a wildflower bloom in a sidewalk crack, the sound of birds, strength in my legs, arms, heart, and lungs, to walk, run, and garden and do yoga, a cup of hot coffee, a book at the library that sparks my curiosity, a conversation with my husband or a stranger I encounter while doing errands, the white noise of traffic, a mile of path to walk, a stone to hold in my hand or pocket, the smell of clean laundry, the rustle of aspen leaves out the window, colors, sky blue, earth brown, fur green, robin's red breast, denim blue, amber yellow, quartz white, behind my closed eyelid pink. Abundance is like happiness, or at least quiet peace. It's all around, and I tend to overlook it until it becomes a measured thing, a commodity that I may run out of. That's what some call lack programming. So I have to look at that. And that's when I start tracking things. And it goes back to my college days when I'm almost out of shampoo and I'm suspicious and worried that someone may use the last of my shampoo. It's a scarcity mindset. It's having no confidence that I'll ever be able to afford another bottle of shampoo again. And it's not looking at the government cheese that we used to stretch our grocery dollars when I was a kid as something that was like a blessing that taught me how to make the best cheese sauce in the family to this day. It was something I was kind of shy of. I was embarrassed of in a way. I should be proud of that. And I should look at that as a way of using resources in a really clever, wonderful way. I put on socials. And so take a look at my Instagram feed. I think I have 6 or 7 pictures of a temple that was in the heart of Tokyo. It's right next to a bunch of skyscrapers. There's trains that are bustling below the ground, the sublevel, and there's a 7-Eleven next door. But this temple is filled with foxes. And I found out the reason why the foxes were chosen for this particular temple is because the person that founded what is now known as Tokyo, but it was Edo before, he was a clever man. He came from absolutely nothing in a very rural village. He became the cleverest student and he got into really good schools and he just kept going from there and he founded Edo. He founded Tokyo. And because he used his smarts and he was charming and he pulled in resources, he was aligned with the clever fox that finds a way to be fruitful. And that's how we need to look at some of these things. Even if we have to look backward to our childhood and or places in our, even last week where we could hardly find the money to pay a bill. And we knew if it was late, we were paying late fees on top of which we really couldn't afford. If we can start looking backward and rewriting that as look how clever we were that we found a way. Look at how we gutted it out. Look at our courage. Look at our positive attitude and move forward. Then maybe we can also find better ways to tie off the top of that garbage sack that we have sitting next to us. Because ultimately, I want us all to be fruitful. I want us all to not be worried or stingy with abundance, that we are able to share it and that it's something that the universe is just right now holding its breath going, well, finally she's doing a podcast on it. And finally, people are thinking about this as something that it's as natural as breathing. That's my hope and my loving wish casting for this entire episode, that we can all have the white cow stop biting our right wrist and we can embrace this phrase, unconditional abundance. Thanks for listening to Curious Cat. Until next week, stay curious. I love you.
Hey, you. Yes, you. Are you looking for a new podcast that appeals to your scientific curiosity, but is also a little bit spooky?
Show me how I died in a past life.
Well, look no further, because this cat is where it's at.
He had concerns about the ethics surrounding AI, feeling they had achieved consciousness.
Curious Cat Podcast examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. Listen every week with your host, Jennifer Holtz, as she and her guests explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit.
We were healing karma together. They were all kind of predestined to resolve something.
Listen on all your favorite streaming apps and continue the conversation on Twitter at CuriousCatPodCA, or find Jennifer and all her links at Jennifer L. Holtz, spelled HOTES.com.